Today I'm ranking every biome in the Astroneer Glitchwalkers DLC. Just in case you don't know, Aeolus is the planet where the story of the DLC happens, and these are all its biomes. So let's start with the Bulin Fields. I'm not really sure where to put this, so let's think about it. It's definitely not gonna go in the not interested part. This is the part where you start off the DLC. So it is pretty easy, but it also doesn't have a lot of resources. However, this is where you get most of the story in the form of missions, so I'll have to put this in good for now. We can always move these around later. Just taking a quick look, in the Bulin fields you can only find resin, compound and quartz, but it looks pretty nice, so that's why it gets the good category, that's right in the middle. Next up we've got the Aggregate Hills biome. You will find this one pretty early in the DLC, in like the first hour you should come across it, and this has some better resources. You can find laterite, sphelerite, compound and resin here, so that will allow you to advance your items and resources. But other than that, there are no story beats happening in this specific biome, so at least in my mind it's not that memorable. I'll throw it in the meh category. After that we've got the Cyber Canyon. This is the one we've seen in all the trailers, everybody went crazy about it because it looks really good. It's also an awesome biome we've kind of been asking for a while. We always wondered why Calidor is so bland. This is Calidor but way better, and it also has that big structure with the bones, like some ancient creature used to live there. So there actually might be some extra hidden lore behind the Cyber Canyon. If we are talking resources, you'll be able to find clay, graphite, compound, resin and wolframite here, so you can see the similarities with the deserts of Calidor from the Astroneer base game. But again, this is much better, and it's also two different elevations. It has one section that's on top, where you have to go from one pillar to another, and you'll find stuff on there. Then you're gonna find resources on the pillars, like on the side of them, all the way down. And then you have the section inside the canyon, when you go down there, and that's the biggest part of it, where you'll find basically all of the resources and a lot of points of interest and all that stuff. Personally, I really enjoy this biome, and I also want to build a couple bases on there. I have some cool ideas of a suspended base from two different pillars that also goes down, maybe with a train that's gonna be an elevator, something like that. But there's a ton of stuff you can do in there, and it's also pretty cool and unlike everything we've ever seen in Astroneer before. So for that, I'll put it in the awesome category. Now we're starting to go in the storm peaks. Yes, these are the pink glitch areas. I might have called them the pink hills in the past. They're actually three different areas, but they look kind of similar. And these are around each storm. We've got the Alpha, Delta and Zeta storms. If you've played through the DLC or if you've watched my playlist, then you know what I'm talking about. But if not, let me show you. And I'm gonna start with the Alpha storm peaks. The Alpha storm is the green one, and is the easiest one to get going. Here's where you find how the DLC works out. You repair your first gateway chamber and unlock it. It's a ton of cool stuff, and you get insights into the story. You get these from all the storms. It has some resources that you haven't encountered before, like the malachite. But in total you're gonna find here malachite, laterite, clay, compound and resin. So this is still the start of it. We're gonna be getting into the harder biomes later. So this is the easiest hard biome to get through. And it's hard to get to not only because of the terrain. You've also got some plants here and there, but they're not an issue. The issue is the storm. This is the first storm you're gonna encounter in the DLC, and it's gonna be pretty bad at first. But by the time you get to the last storm, the first one will seem extremely easy. Just because of the impact all the glitchy plants have when you first go into this, and the fact that this biome actually makes a whole circle and surrounds the starting area, so you cannot go anywhere on the planet without going through it. I think that just makes a lasting impression. You have to cross it, and you have to cross it so many times. And it also has all of these glitchy plants. So yeah, with it being your first encounter with all of these glitchy things, I'm gonna put it in the awesome category. Next up, we've got the Delta storm peaks. These are like the Alpha storm peaks, but for the Delta storm. These are a little bit further away. It's a mountainous section, kind of, and it circles the whole planet, dividing it into two basically. Of course, by the time you're late game in the DLC, you'll have a rover with a drill and paver and some soil, so you can just blast straight through. But I'm talking about the beginning, when you're playing through the story of the DLC, and you first get to the Delta storm with Ruby trying to collect some storm data. Number one, it's kinda hard to get there at first, and then it's hard to go through it later when you go to the Zeta storm, for example, or when you're late game, but you don't have a rover yet. So yeah, this is a harder biome, definitely much harder than the ones we've been talking before. And as in resources, you're gonna find titanite, ammonium, quartz, resin and compound. Most notable the ammonium, you can use that for hydrazine, but also the titanite because you're gonna need that for some important upgrades. That being said, the Delta Storm Peaks is cool because it divides the whole planet into two sections. and you have to go through it to get to the other side of the planet. But it is similar to the Alpha Storm Peaks, which you've definitely seen before if you got here. So I'm just gonna put it in the good category, but this is pretty close to the awesome one. It could be somewhere in the middle, but I'm gonna leave it at good. We are still on the subject of storms, so let's talk about the Zeta Storm Peaks. Now this is hard. The Zeta Storm is the last storm you're gonna encounter. You actually see them again, but I'm not going into spoilers here. You can watch my playlist on the whole DLC if you want to. There's the whole story in there in a couple of videos. So this is basically the hardest one. It's hard to get there. It's hard to go through the Zeta Storm Peaks biome and get to the storm. The storm is brutal. Collecting the storm data is hard as well. You're gonna get hacked constantly and really quick. There are plants shooting at you. The terrain is not in your favor. Fixing the gateway is harder. The puzzles get increasingly harder as you move through the story, which I actually like a lot. But that being said, it is a harder biome. This might actually be the hardest biome in the whole game. But you will find some really important resources here like laterite, hematite, lithium, resin and compound. So especially the hematite and the lithium, you will want those. You can also get them somewhere else, we'll talk about that later, and this is probably not where you will first encounter them. But it is a good source to get a ton of these resources, and it also plays a pivotal point in the story. So the Zeta Storm Peaks. Based on how hard it is and the fact that you don't really want to spend a lot of time in there, I can't really put it all the way up. But based on how important it is to the story and all the anticipation building up, because you know you've got this last storm looming over you and you know it's gonna be harder than all the ones you've been to before. You know it's closer to the end of the DLC. You just need to get that final storm and then you will be able to uncover all the secrets of the DLC. So because of all this anticipation, once you get to this biome, it feels really frightening and it feels really hard. It feels big, you know? So I guess it will go in the awesome category. I think that's pretty fair to say that. But let me be clear, it is in the awesome section right next to the Alpha Storm Peaks. But the Zeta Storm Peaks are much harder. They also provide much better resources. So the Zeta Storm Peaks compared to the Alpha Storm Peaks are like your Aatrox compared to Silva. I hope that makes sense. But they're both equally as awesome, so it goes in that category. Next up, we need to talk about the Crystal Caves, or as they are officially called, Planet Area Cavern Recovered 22. It has a glitchy name because it's the Glitchwalkers DLC and all of that. I'm just gonna call them the Crystal Caves, because that way everybody knows what I'm talking about. We've been seeing these in trailers even before the DLC released, and it looked like the most alien biome out of them all. In my opinion, it actually looks way better than the Cyber Canyon. Some people may not agree with that, but I said it actually looks way better. I'm not sure it's the best looking biome in all of this DLC, but we'll talk about that in a second. Staying on the subject of the Crystal Caves, you've seen these massive crystals. You have to go in there because otherwise you will not be able to go into the storms. Again, I'm not going into spoilers, but you will get down here. It's an awesome biome. I'm actually building a base in it. I've been doing that for the past couple days and I'm having a ton of fun. I also had a ton of fun when I first discovered it. It was one of those moments, you know, you're in the new DLC, you wonder what's out there, you start digging down and then you see nothing. It's empty all the way down. You drill, and then if you fall, you're gonna fall for a really long time. This biome is so tall that when you see it from above, it feels like it never ends. There's this sense of awe when you first see it. Once you get down there and you see these things up close and all the stuff that's in there, you get this feeling of being on a whole different planet than the one above. I think I had a video called I found a planet inside of a planet. It was about this biome. Basically, it's not like the caves from the normal planets in Astroneer. It doesn't have any walls, so it's basically just another planet inside of the big planet. But in this biome you will find malachite, wolframite, hematite, resin and compound. This is probably where you will first find the hematite and the wolframite. They're gonna be really useful. I'm gonna put the Crystal Caves into the best thing ever section, just because it kind of is the best thing ever. After playing through the whole DLC, this really is one of the best biomes in the whole game. So I can't see myself putting it into any other category than best thing ever. We've only got 2 more biomes to go, so let's see what these are all about. The next one is the Glowing Forest Caves. Now this is the name I gave to it. I don't know what other people call it, but the official name is, and hear this out, Cave Test 016 Test B Testing Whip Test Test T. I get the fact that this is probably the name of the file they used when they designed this, and because this gets glitchier and glitchier as you progress through the story, I get that this is supposed to be like a glitchy name, it's like a file name, but what in the world? I can't even... Okay, it's just gonna be the glowing forest caves. Okay, we'll just call it that, and I hope you all agree with me that I'm not gonna say this whole name every time I'm referring to this biome. Now, you're gonna find ammonium, wolframite, lithium, resin and compound here. You might have noticed that you will find resin and compound in most biomes, if not all of them. Actually, there's only one single exception that we're gonna talk about next, but the best thing you will find here is the lithium. You're gonna need that for batteries and other stuff that you really wanna get. So anyway, you can find the resources you need from other biomes. This is not about the resources, this is about the looks. This is one of the most surreal biomes in all of Astroneer. I love how the plants glow up and you get closer to it, and I'm gonna put some footage of me going through it here so you can see it for yourself. I have built a base down there as well and it's awesome, but this is way deeper into the planet, even beyond the crystal caves. However, you need to get here in order to finish the story, so you will definitely come across it and see it. It gives you a certain feeling, because it's so dark, you're deep inside the planet, it's dark, but then all of these plants are glowing up as you get next to them. So it's just a feeling that it gives you. For that, I'm gonna put it in the best thing ever category. I think I also called it the best biome when I did a video on it. Okay, now let's talk about the last biome, which is the nucleus. This is not the core. The core is not actually a biome. The core is cool, it has a cool design, but it's just a core. The nucleus is actually the layers above the core. And notice I said layers, not layer, because this biome actually consists of multiple layers with holes in them, so you can go through all the holes without digging anything. But you will find ammonium, graphite, astronium and titanite here. So apart from astronium, you can get all of these easier somewhere else, but this is the only place you can get astronium in the Glitchwalkers DLC. So that makes it pretty important, if I'm being honest. It does look cool, but it's not cool going through it. There is no sense of, oh my god, this is the best biome ever. But when you first get there, you're not there for this biome, you're there because you want to get into the core. So I want to give it a higher rating because it's the only place you can find astronium, but just for that I can't really put it on the same level as some of the other biomes. So I'm just gonna put it in the meh category. It definitely doesn't belong in the not interested category because it is a cool biome. So I'm just gonna leave it in the meh category. So this right here is my tier list for all the biomes in the Astroneer Glitchwalkers DLC. Now I'm really curious, do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What should I change? Which biome goes where? Please let me know all of that in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see future content of both Astroneer and the new DLC. I've got a lot more videos in the works and I'm really excited about all of them. And if you don't own the game or you don't own the DLC but want to see the story, then I've got the playlist with all of the story in there, plus some of the bases that I've built, so you can check it out right here. But that's gonna be all for today. Cheers, Astroneers!